I feel like it got super quiet when we came out here, so I guess we should just start.
Hello? Is this on? Yes? Can you hear me? Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Really excited to be here today. Hoping the day has gone by pretty smooth for you all. My name is Mayra Vilas, and I am a talent acquisition coordinator here at the Art Institute of Chicago. I've been here for about 4.5 years now. I actually started off as a human resources assistant, and then I got promoted into my current role. So part of my job is to assist recruiters, helping them fill full-time and part-time jobs here at the institution. In case you didn't know, the Art Institute of Chicago is actually comprised of the museum, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and in between we have what's called central administration. So you can only imagine the variety of opportunity or the variety of searches I've assisted in. The other part of my job is to assist with the recruitment of interns here. And with that being said, I've had the pleasure to be able to work with, to partner with, and to be supported by my lovely co-worker here, Elizabeth.
Thank you. That was so nice. Oh my gosh. So I'm Elizabeth. I'm a project coordinator for something called the Diversifying Art Museum Leadership Initiative, which is like a really long mouthful title. But essentially what that means is just that I help make sure that internships are the most equitable and supportive they can be. And we are so excited to be talking with you all today, sharing with you just 4 tips and tricks for landing your next art museum career. Just to let you know on the front end, the tips we share with you today are not specific to the Art Institute, museums, or even internships, but those just happen to be the things that we are most closely familiar with. So feel free to use any of these tips for your next any job in any industry.
So before we actually get started into the first tip, by a show of hands, how many of you are currently on LinkedIn?
Ooh, that's a pretty good number. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you have the LinkedIn app downloaded on your phone? Okay, slightly fewer hands. So for those of you who raised your hand the first time, but not the second time, I encourage you to maybe go to the Play Store and download the LinkedIn app sometime in the next couple of minutes. Don't worry, we won't get mad at you for looking at your phone because we have a little bit of an activity coming up later. But in the meantime, let's get started with our first tip.
Tip number 1, tailor your materials.
So we are definitely, as you can imagine, not the type of company or organization where you can just send off your resume, the same one to 50 different positions. You really should be working to tailor your materials, and we're going to talk about a few ways you might think about doing that. So the first tip that I have is really just demonstrate an understanding of the role that you're applying for. So for example, as Sam said earlier, do you know that our photography department actually doesn't take any pictures? That's an entirely different department. So just make sure you read through the job description and really understand the types of roles that you're applying for. Our second tip is really to avoid generic or insincere phrases. So our example of this is, I have always wanted to work at the Art Institute, or I've always loved the Art Institute. That could be super true for you, but because we read it all the time, it kind of loses its punch after a while. So if you want to say that, make sure you really, really mean it, or maybe give us a reason why. And our last tip in this section is to really just read carefully and follow the directions. Some of our internship positions are just a standard resume cover letter. Some of them require a writing sample, or maybe an answer to a couple of specific questions. So just make sure you read thoroughly and give us all the materials you need to apply for the role.
Yeah, and I actually cannot stress that enough. Make sure you're definitely reading those descriptions very carefully. Make sure you submit everything that is being asked for. And sometimes you'll see descriptions don't ask for a cover letter. I would definitely take that extra step, take those extra few minutes to write and include a enticing cover letter. It's only gonna help you. And in that cover letter, what you want to include is things like you want to highlight those transferable skills that you have. You want to include why you want to be at this institution and how possibly this internship is going to help you further in your career. Remember that the key point is to know that the goal here is that you want the hiring manager to notice you, right? So you want to look unique. So aside from your resume, make sure you include that cover letter. And in regards to your resume, make sure you're highlighting the most relevant experiences. So maybe you don't have experience working at an art museum, and that's completely okay. It happens all the time, and it's okay. But maybe you have volunteer experience working at another cultural institution, or maybe you've taken classes that are relevant to the industry, or have maybe even written research papers that are also relevant. Those are all experiences and exposures that you want to include and definitely highlight, and maybe focus less on the roles that you've had that maybe are not so on brand.
So as you're getting ready to send off those materials to us or the hiring manager, it's a good idea, particularly for our institution, to just go over it with a fine-tooth comb, just to make sure everything is polished. As you can imagine, we read between us literally thousands of resumes every year, so those little things really make a difference. So in terms of formatting, these are a couple of my favorite fonts, but just make sure you're picking something clean, simple, that is also maybe on brand for the role that you're applying for. And I cannot stress enough that these small things make a huge difference. So if you feel like maybe not so confident, feel free to go to your career center or your writing center just to make sure that everything is how you want it to be when you're applying for your job.
Tip number 2, do your research. And by that we mean, possibly research the institution, research the department you're applying for, maybe even research the interviewers that will be part of the interview process.
And you can do research really at any point in the process. Typically, I like to do it right before I'm going in for an interview, but of course, doing it earlier is also really great. So some questions that you might want to think about in regards to doing research, particularly about an art museum or a different museum that you might be applying for, is what is the mission of the museum you're applying for? So every museum is going to have a little bit of a different focus. What's their collecting philosophy? What are their mission, vision, and values? So make sure you go into your interview or into your writing of materials with an understanding of what this looks like. What does the professional oversight of the department look like? So one, as I said before, what is that department actually in charge of doing? And who is actually in charge of doing that in that department? So as Myra said, it might be a good idea to look up your interviewers on LinkedIn, or honestly, so many of our colleagues are world-renowned, so you could honestly do a Google search, kind of as Nikhil said. So kind of tying those two things together, how does this particular department support the mission of the museum that you're applying for? And then on a more micro scale from that, how does the role you're applying for support that department? So really understanding that full context and reflecting that back can give you a leg up in the hiring process. So I know that sometimes this can be kind of a hard thing to research. So my big tip is to really scrutinize the job description for key projects, tasks, or even language that they use to talk about themselves, because if you can reflect that back, either in a spoken interview or a cover letter, it really helps get you noticed and possibly getting a position with us. So, tip 3 is update your LinkedIn profile. I have a personal story about this because I actually got my museum job. I was discovered on LinkedIn. I was not looking for a museum position. I always thought that getting jobs off of LinkedIn was an urban legend, and it didn't happen to anybody, but it actually happened to me. So I'm a huge proponent of keeping your LinkedIn profile updated, and Myra's gonna talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Great, and just to piggyback off that, not only are recruiters actually on there looking for people to fill full-time roles, but Elizabeth and I are both on LinkedIn looking to fill our internships as well. So definitely for those that are students, please be sure that you have your LinkedIn profile updated.
I would say sometimes it's up to 50% of our intern population at the undergrad or graduate level is people that we've sourced on LinkedIn.
And what do we mean by updating your LinkedIn profile? That doesn't mean only update your experience. There are different key components in your profile that you also want to consider. The first one I would say is as simple as uploading a profile picture. So we see this a lot. We look at profiles and they don't have pictures. But honestly, it's very simple to upload a profile picture. Typically, what we like to say is it should be a headshot, so shoulders up, friendly smile, and a neutral background. But really what you want to do is portray your professional self. So maybe that's not on your brand. So you could go ahead and figure what your professional brand is and go ahead and upload that profile picture. Honestly, a picture is better than no picture. The second point here is include an eye-catching headliner. So use words like aspiring, actively seeking, emerging. Use words that tell us what you're actually looking for. It should be, 4 to 5 words to just get straight to the point. We use the example here, aspiring human resources professional, or history major, currently seeking a curatorial internship, let's say. Again, 4 to 5 words, and straight to the point. Which actually brings me to my next point here. Write a short and sweet summary. So in your profile, you have this option of writing a summary. Typically, you want to include here, you want to highlight your key skills. You want to tell us a little bit more about you beyond your experience. So include your passions, include your goals. And again, this is just an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. But keep in mind, keep it to about no more than 2 paragraphs. My fourth tip here is list hard and soft skills. So on LinkedIn, you have the option of including all these different types of skills. And the benefit here is that as recruiters, Elizabeth and I actually have what is called LinkedIn recruiter seats. And basically what we're able to do is go on the back end and look for people, source people via LinkedIn. So there's a whole bunch of different filters that we can look for people by, and a big one is these skills. Make sure you are including hard and soft skills. So maybe you have really great leadership skills, include that. Maybe you are a techie person and know HTML or any other specialized programs. Make sure you are including those because it's going to be easier to find you. And the last point I have here is to turn on your job search setting. So on LinkedIn, there is an option to turn the setting on, which basically allows recruiters to let us know that you are currently actively seeking new opportunities. So once you've updated your profile, everything is looking nice, shiny, and polished, make sure you turn this on. That way, recruiters are able to reach you. But if you happen to be in a stage right now that you're not looking, you can turn it off, and recruiters will not be bombarding you with LinkedIn in-mails.
And so our final tip is to build your network. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, I quickly just wanted to add that building your network means a lot of different things, right? LinkedIn has been a very useful tool, definitely, but know that it is a tool and not the only tool. Make sure you are continuing to network with people in person. Make sure you are joining organizations that you want to be affiliated with. So again, LinkedIn is a great tool, but not the only tool.
And we're going to start networking right now. So those of you that have the LinkedIn app on your phone, I want you to kind of pull that up. If you don't have this, maybe you just turn to a neighbor, and we're going to do a little bit of an activity. Those of you that do have LinkedIn, I want you to go to the bottom. Those icons at the bottom, click on the one with the people on it and that says My Network. Give you a little minutes to do that. Myra's telling me not to rush so much. Then click on the little blue circular icon in the lower right corner. Then it's going to show a couple of options. I want you to toggle Find Nearby on, so click that. And then you should start to see some people that are in the room today. So I'm actually going to put this down so I can open mine if it's in my pocket. So I encourage you, this will show some people that are also at JAM today, who are also maybe looking for opportunities or who maybe are in the same position as you are. So I encourage you to, oh my gosh, so many people, look at this, oh my God, this is so good. Maybe connect with somebody later at JAM, go to the same breakout session, or maybe connect afterwards. Other strategies for museum job networking are to attend art museum events like JAM or other lectures, just so that you can get a sense of what's kind of going on in the ecosystem of art museums.
Another one would be to, again, to my point, connect authentically with professors and other professionals. So again, not everything is on LinkedIn. Make sure you are authentically reaching out to people that are close to you, like your professors and other professionals that only want to see you grow.
And I just want to underscore the authentically piece of that, just because you don't want to be connecting with people just because you want a job. Connect on your research interest or their research interest, or just so that those connections can kind of grow organically. Tip 3 is to practice an elevator speech or an elevator pitch so that when you're in front of James Rondeau, our director, and you have 30 seconds, you really know what you want to say and how to sell yourself.
And tip number 4 here, engage with your peers as much as your superiors. So, you just never know where someone's going to be at in the next 6 months, in the next year, or in the next 5 years. So be sure to, continue those relationships.
I want to kind of emphasize that point, especially when you have an internship or you get to have access to these different spaces. Don't just be only thinking about selling yourself up to the people that you report to or people who might be in positions of power, but your peers are the ones that are going to be able to lift you up and really are your community as you go through job searching. So definitely prioritize that as well.
Perfect. So now that you've heard some of our wonderful tips, hopefully you have taken that in. I saw a lot of people who were taking notes, taking pictures of our screen, so that's really exciting. But I want to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming summer opportunities. Specifically, wanted to point out 2 big programs that are happening this summer, and everything is actually found online, so feel free to go to arctic.edu/internships. All of these and many more are going to be listed on our website, but I quickly wanted to point to the Learning and Public Engagement Summer Internship. So this is a really great program, really great opportunity. We will be bringing on 8 interns this summer for that specific program. Interns will be starting in early to mid-June, and we'll go through about the first week of August or so. Application deadlines for this program are due February 24th, so we are almost there. Definitely make sure you guys are including all your materials. This is one of those programs that is going to require a resume, a cover letter, responses to some questions, but everything is laid out there. So make sure you are reading everything and including everything that is required. The other one I quickly want to point to is the Andrew Mellon Summer Academy. So this is also an amazing program. It's actually a 1-week intensive opportunity specifically for freshmen and sophomore students in college. We will be bringing on 15 students. Typically, those are going to be local students, and that program happens in June. So it is 1 week in June. Great opportunity to meet other students that are like you, to network with professionals here at the institution, and I believe they actually do some field trips to other institutions. So again, great opportunity. That one, the deadline is going to be due March 1st, so another one that's coming up pretty quickly. Again, everything is listed on our website, and we do have staff members here from the Academic Engagement and Research Department that handles the Andrew Mellon Summer Academy. So if you bump into them around the galleries, please feel free to ask them any additional questions. And as well as we have staff from the LPE department who is the hiring managers for the Learning and Public Engagement Summer Internship. So everyone is super helpful, everyone is super nice. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to approach any of our staff members.
I also want to put in a plug for our Emerging Art Leaders internships. Those are the ones that I recruit for that I'm really excited about for the summer, as well as a internship in human resources that's on our team. So if you want to hang out with us this summer, that might be something that you're interested in. I also wanted to highlight just some perks and benefits of internships with us, which include free general admission to the Art Institute and special exhibitions as well as other cultural institutions in Chicago and beyond. Perks and benefits also include one-on-one mentor relationships with literally some of the top museum practitioners in the world. And then we also do customized professional development programming for interns that are specifically designed to help people who are early on in their museum career path. And it also provides opportunities for that peer networking that we were talking about before.
Yeah, very quickly, I wanted to also include or highlight that we have invited some of our intern alumni for today's event. So hopefully those people have their badges. Hopefully they're able to speak more about their experience here. So again, another key people to look out for and ask them about their experience here.
Does anyone in here have an intern alumni badge? What color is it? Yellow. Look for people with yellow badges if you want to know what it's like to be an intern here, and just take it from us.
Perfect. Well, we are nearing the end of our presentation. Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure to be up here. Hopefully you got something out of it. Again, my name is Myra, and this is Elizabeth. We will be here the rest of the afternoon, so feel free to approach us. We're here to help answer any additional questions. I did want to say also that not only are we here from Talent Acquisition, we have some great colleagues here. We have the Director of Talent Acquisition, Shelly Booker. We also have Kim Blackston here, the Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist, and Molly Rotmensch, the Talent Acquisition Coordinator. So all of us are part of TA, and we are definitely open to have further conversations with you all.
Does the TA team want to stand up? They're all just sitting in a row here. Can you just give them a wave? So if you have questions about any of our jobs or internship opportunities, you can come to any of us the rest of the afternoon. We'll be kind of dispersed about through the gallery talks, museum breakout sessions, etc. Thank you all so much.
Oh, by the way, we are all in all the TA team. We're all dressed in black, and we have these silver name tags. So feel free to find us.
I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We want to leave you with this super inspirational human resources video that was created by our team. And just to remind you that the staff breakout sessions will begin at 2:45. So once this video is over, you can feel free to proceed to whatever your selected discussion was for the afternoon.
I remember the throne rooms. I remember being in Fullerton Hall. I remember being on the women's board staircase. And there's these certain spots that are just part of my childhood memories that when I think about where I first was introduced to art, it was really in Chicago. I was at the Art Institute. To even consider that people could actually work here and make a living and have a profession was something that inspired me to follow this track of working in a museum from the beginning.
It's the friendly environment that I like most. We have people from different backgrounds and we treat each other all equally.
The most rewarding aspect of my job is to help people to be in conversation with one another and with history through art, and to show young people that this is a viable job, that you can live your life and your career working for an art museum with art and with people.
What's most surprising about my job, I think, is how much fun I have every day. I organize this thing called One Song Thursday, where we get together once a week over a lunch break and we pass around a guitar and we play one song.
My favorite benefit by far is free access to the other institutions in the city. To be able to take my son to the zoo or to the aquarium, I think that's a great benefit.
With any job, no matter what, even in the best of circumstances, It can be stressful. Sometimes you just need to take a break and walk away, and there's no better place to be able to walk away from your desk than at the museum.
What I like most about the role is that it allows me the opportunity of flexibility. It aligns with my lifestyle and work-life balance as I pursue other things in my life.
We are, of course, also part of SAIC. One institution, you do get to take free classes. I've taken an art class.
So in conservation and science, we both use technology that is out there, and we're always eager to take new developments and adapt them. And we force some of those technology manufacturers to think outside the box and really address questions that we have about the unique work of art.
It's fairly unique for a museum to have in-house developers, front-end, back-end, database. But at the Art Institute, we've actually had developers in-house for 20-some years.
I have been here for about 15 years now. I actually originally came here sort of in transition from a career in advertising, and I started volunteering.
I started as an intern. That turned into a coordinator position. And then I was assistant director of organizational giving, associate director of organizational giving, and then I was the director of corporate relations, and then now the executive director of institutional relations. I personally have a quest for knowledge and curiosity, and so being in a place like this where there is so much going on and there's such diversity in what we're doing really helps satisfy that personal curiosity.
So in addition to being a collection of extraordinary individuals that you might expect that are art historians and curators, we're also a group of librarians, archivists, community educators, chemists, data programmers, market researchers, financial analysts, teachers, artists, craftsmen, so much more.